Good morning to you guys. I am not usually on a Monday morning, and I am waiting for my next appointment. So I thought, let me just come on and talk for a little bit because there's this thing on my heart that is troubling me, and I thought that I should, just share. Many of you probably know that what I do, a significant part of what I do is that I work with couples, and so I kind of get a chance to see the things that really threaten relationships. And I think that after doing something for a period of time, you start to see trends. You start to see that there are specific things that create problems in relationships. Hey, Vivian, and it makes sense to kind of look at those trends and talk about what those things really are, and how they can become an issue. So I'm gonna talk about two things that I think are a real threat to relationships. And I think on the one hand, I'm going to split this one into the men on one part on side and the women on the other side. Um, I think for women, for men, the big threat is ignoring their partner, and for women, the big threat is not affirming their partner. And so you kind of have this situation where ignoring and not affirming mix together to really create a problem in many relationships. Like, hey, Jennifer, uh, from Memphis. I think that I saw you last time, so I appreciate you coming on. I just thought I would jump on this morning really early. Um, hey, Vivian, just to talk about this particular topic. So here's what happens, right? A guy would come, and I'm going to talk for a little bit in a few minutes about the women, because I only intend to be on here for about 10 minutes because I have an appointment at 10:30. um, so what happens a lot of times is that, with good intentions, especially men who are really about their work, they're really about their responsibilities. So you have this situation where the guy goes out to work, he takes care of his responsibility. Um, he mows the lawn, he does all these things, but there's a kind of ignoring that's taking place, and a lot of times I do not think is intentional. I think that this has a lot to do with how we've been socialized. Men have been socialized to work hard, to take care of responsibilities, and so they operate based on that socialization. But we haven't really been socialized to do the little things, sitting down and talking, trying to understand our partner's needs, trying to make sense of their concerns. And so sometimes try in a bit to try to fix things to make it right. I'll take care of it. It's not going to be a problem. I'll make sure everything is going to be all right. So in a sense, you're taking care of things. You're trying to make things happen. But the end result of that is ignoring your partner, which I do not think that this stuff is intentional, but I can tell you from the work that I do that it happens all the time. And I don't know if any of you can relate to this. Any of you who are watching this now, or so you're watching this in the future. So I get this narrative a lot that, oh, okay, the narrative is, the I take care of things. What more does she want? And and unfortunately, I have to say it is not enough, because here's the problem. The problem is that from a social perspective, we don't. It's not like 50 years ago. In a sense, men don't need women, women don't need men, except for one thing, and that's companionship. And so, because of that, uh, well, there you go, Jennifer. You see, um, except for um, except for companionship, women can live on their own and take care of themselves. Men can live on their own and take care of themselves. We don't need one another. But the very thing that we need, we don't have the skills for, is how to connect with a person on an emotional level. We know to pay bills, we need to take care of all these things, but really connecting with a person on an emotional level is a problem. So Jennifer says this is exactly what happened between my husband and I. I get it, but I think it's very confusing for men. That, what are you talking about? I especially the guy who may not even be cheating or any of this kind of stuff. He's responsible. He's doing what he said he will do, but something goes wrong in the midst there, where he's taking care of things, but ignoring this process, ignoring the partner. And I think my heart kind of goes out for the guys for this reason. But let me talk quickly because I got like 3 minutes um, about what happens on the other end with women. I think that women have been falsely cultured to believe that men are strong, and therefore, well, they should be physically strong, or they are physically strong. But they've been cultured in such a way that because of that idea of strength, women oftentimes don't believe that the men need affirming. They don't need to know, well, you did a good job in cleaning up the garage or mowing the lawn or whatever it is that they did, you know. And so they ignore the little things that the person the man may be making the choice to do. And on both ends, the ignoring is happening. But both people are assuming because they're building a house or they're taking care of home or they're building a career, they're planning for the next vacation, they have the retirement, they have all this stuff going on. There's an assumption at some level that that's enough. Um, I hear you. I don't understand why. Well, I think the answer is, Miss Du, is that a lot of it has to do with training. That's the way how we've been cultured. There's a culture of believing that vulnerability is weakness. But I assure you that there are people who can be vulnerable. There are men who can be vulnerable and still protect what is theirs. They still can exude a certain amount of strength. They can express pain over here, but over here let people know where to get off. So it is possible, but a lot of it has to do with the way how we've been cultured. A lot has to do with the way how we've been trained. Now, unfortunately, you know, it's a big issue. So on both ends, guys, you have the guy over here who's taking care of responsibility, but he's ignoring the emotional part of the relationship, and the girl over here who is ignoring the fact that her man needs affirming, the fact that her man needs, he needs a backstroking. He may not say that he needs it, but let a woman come along who tells him, a nice shirt, or, I like the way how you talk. And all of a sudden, he's kind of like, he's going in that direction like a zombie because he needed it and he didn't even realize that he needed it. The person who's going to listen to him, the person who's going to affirm him, is probably the person who's going to get his attention. So I don't think that we should be deceived by either end, be deceived into believing that on one end, the working hard and taking care of responsibility is enough, because it's not. And it's taken me a long time to realize this, just because of what I see in this office, where people go through relationships at 10 years in a relationship and 15 years, and they don't know one another anymore because they've worked so hard for the house, for the car, for the vacations, for the retirement account, and they look across at one another and like, who are you? Because they're doing things for one another, but they're not doing things with one another. And I remember what I said earlier, ultimately, what we need is companionship. We don't need one another for anything else, unfortunately. So, okay. And on the other end, I have realized that in working and looking in my work with couples, that women are less than willing sometimes to affirm their partners. They're less than willing to let the guys know how important they are, how valuable they are, how much they appreciate them. And so you have this situation where both people are ignoring one another for innocent reasons, but it's happening. So that's all I wanted to say. Hey, if you guys, before my phone rings over there, I'm going to just like hold. If you have any comments, I just kind of like gave a spiel for like 6 or 7 minutes. I don't know if any of you guys, if there's something that you wanted to say. Miss Duke, she said, what we need is companionship. That's it, because we don't, in 2017 and beyond, we don't need one another for anything else. People don't necessarily need the other person's money. You know, the way how things are these days, I mean, it's nice to have another income, but people can live on their own. They can, you can take care of yourself. But the thing that I think we lack is companionship, is really knowing how do you connect with a person, especially somebody who over time you're learning more and more about their good side and learning more and more about their bad side. a lot of us have difficulty dealing with the negative parts of people, so we ignore those things, or we don't confront those things, or we don't know how to manage those things because of our own self. Again, the ignoring takes place on both ends. So that's all I wanted to say this morning. Vivian says women often don't give for affirmation because. Are you asking me because, or you're telling me, you're kind of repeating what I said? What I said. Because if you're asking me, I'll answer again. It's because I think that there's a certain myth of strength, and this myth of strength leads men to believe that they don't have to emotionally connect, and it leads women to believe that they don't have to affirm. So because I'm strong, then I become this Brutus, unavailable man, and this is the way how it is. And on the other end, well, it doesn't even come to the consciousness that this guy may have a heart inside and he needs some kind of emotional backstroking, if you want to call it that, because every human being needs it, whether we want to admit it or not. It doesn't mean that you need to sit down and like suck your thumb in a corner, because at the end of the day, things need to get done. I mean, there's no way around it. You need to get up and take care of responsibility. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that with that comes some need for emotional comfort. They feel that letting a man know how they feel will make the man this interested. I want to hear a little bit more about that, because I think that there's some value to that, and I'm trying to process parts of what you're saying. They feel that letting a man, so I think there are parts of that that's like you're pursuing. So if I kind of hold back a little bit, then he'll maintain interest, right? That here go the chase. They think men are captivated by the chase. It's true. I think we are captivated by the chase, but the chasing, I don't know, it stops in marriage or in long-term relationships. It shouldn't stop. There should be that constant pursuit of showing that person that you're interested in them, finding out more and more about who they are. I don't know that it stops, but I think I think it burns me. It hurts my heart in some ways to see that you have two people who, and I think the thing that I see is that most people who break up they're not breaking up because of love, because of a lack of love. They're breaking up because they don't feel heard, they don't feel valued. And so love is not enough, unfortunately. You need love, but you also need that sense of value, that sense that you're still important to me. But so you have these relationships a lot of times where people are they're ignoring the other person, and they're ignoring the other person for innocent reasons. It's not like they're ignoring the other person because they're not sometimes equipped, or they don't have the knowledge to know, okay, I need to affirm him, or the knowledge to know that it's not enough to say, okay, I'll take care of it, everything is going to be all right. There's a need to also hear the process that's going on in the woman's head, to understand where she's coming from, and what needs that she may have, and be able to respond to those things. Miss Duke says, can emotional distance between a spouse cause the other spouse to compensate by being overly emotional? I think that is a thing, but it's a bad thing, because what we do know is that most or many relationships dissolve because of what we call the distancer pursuer. So one person is standing off, the other person is like, please, 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 hear me, see me, I'm here, And so the relationship becomes about chasing and running as opposed to the issues, whatever the issues are. So all your energy is focused on getting away from her or trying to get him. And so it is a thing. In those situations, a lot of times I tell people that they just need to back off. Because sometimes when you back off, the other person may resume interest, because now their energy is kind of focused on their energy is not focused on running anymore. Vivian, they feel that once he has her devotion, he will look elsewhere for mystery and the thrill of the chase. I don't, I haven't really figured out how to respond to that particular one. The Because at the end of the day, this is a personal choice. People will choose men and women these days because men and women look elsewhere because I think that I don't know, maybe the whole commitment thing is an issue. But there is the issue of people making a commitment to the person that they're with, and I think that we don't fully understand. We people in relationships don't fully understand that you could be with a person 5 years, 10 years, and still at year 10, year 20, year 30, still that there are new things that you can learn about the person because we are dynamic. We're human beings. There's more to you than the physical body. And so that, but I don't know that we get that. What else is there to know about you? I've been with you for 20 years, and so you go elsewhere and chasing something that ultimately you're going to have to find out where those faults are, where those problems are, and have to deal with that too, I guess. But hey, Dion, you're on late. I'm just waiting for my phone to ring because if it doesn't ring, I'll just kind of stay on here for a little bit. We're talking about the thing that threatens the relationship the most, and I said earlier that threat, it has a lot to do with men not showing appreciation on one end. I'm sorry, the men ignoring on one end and women not showing appreciation on the other. Vivian says, see what you just said? The cat and the mouse game that men and women play is childish, it's immature, and it's exhausting. It is. It is. And I think one of the things that I've learned in life is that there's so much depth to one human being. If we can only calm our own anxieties and not respond to every negative or every move that the other person makes, that somehow is a signal to us that we need to tamper down or control their behaviors, I think we would be much better off. But a lot of times, because I think that a lot of individuals have not really learned to manage their own anxiety, they haven't learned to do what we call in psychology self-soothing. When things don't go right, whether that means that my proverbial dishes left in the sink, when things don't go right, the first thought is to run. Whether that's run with your feet or with your mind is to run, as opposed to either making a decision to say, hey, look, this is the way how he or she is, but we're going to be okay anyway, or talking it through. At the back of our mind sometimes is that this is a threat, and therefore I need to deal with it. So one more says the over emotional spouse should back off. I think is a double-edged sword. What tips can you share to manage that? Sorry, I bring up. You could choose to continue to chase. It is a double-edged sword, but if that person ultimately wants to leave, they're gonna leave. And the constant chasing does nothing but maintain a negative cycle. It's negative attention. And so some of the more significant writers in this whole relationship and people having affairs and that kind of stuff, they talk about a term that we use called there's the phone. They talk about a term that we use called charging neutral, which essentially means that that the person or the individual backs off and they maintain, I'm taking care of me in life and I'm going to be okay. You can make your choice about what you want to do. I'm not saying that this stuff is easy. All I'm saying is that I've seen over time that when you continue that run chase cycle, that it's just a negative interaction. What about one partner working on their baggage while the other one remains stuck in the same pattern and playing the victim? Big issue still. But this is where therapy or reading certain types of books help. Here's what I'm going to do because I got to go. I have an appointment. There is there is a book that I think will be valuable to you, Perla. I'm gonna put it in the comments a little bit later, but I gotta go. I know. Why can't we just do that? But there are reasons why we can't, and this is part of the reason why we're here. Why we talk about fighting fear, because I think inside conflict is that door to a better relationship. But we see conflict as a means of it's something to run from. But I think that we need to run towards conflict. But anyway, guys, I got an appointment. I got to take that, and I will post some books in the comment section below, and we'll talk soon. Take care, guys. Bye bye.